We're clearly not going to have any fun with this conversation at all. None at all. Here we go. We're live, guys. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. We have Kyra and Kyle, the co-founders of Baratza, on the podcast with us today. Hello, guys.
Hi there.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much for being so patient with me, given the multiple starts and stops that we had to have this podcast. Again, I apologize with all the visa hiccups that happened that created us to have a delayed conversation. But we're here now, and I'm thrilled that we are doing this. You guys have a company that's definitely withstood the test of time, and I'm a big fan of talking to people who have been through that journey and can attest to how not easy it is. And I would love to let's start with Kyra, if that's okay.
Uh-oh, you just went digital. What, starting with who?
With Kyra.
Okay.
Kyra, I'm saying it right, aren't I? Kyra?
It's Kyra. It's like
Kyra. Blame it on my accent, shall we? Kyra, how did Baratza happen?
Well, there's a long lead up to it, but Kyle is an incredible entrepreneur and inventor. And he actually had started a company quite before Baratza, which was called Accordo. And Accordo was the first commercial super automatic machine company that both automatically brewed espresso, but also steamed milk. And he can tell you a little more about that, but he had that company going in Seattle, and it ended up ending. And we had been working together for a year in that company, and we've just had a blast working together. And he said, let's start a new company. And I am not the entrepreneurial type. I had worked in sales for many companies, and I was working for sales in Accordo. And my husband said, yeah, you and Kyle go goof around and figure out a company and then get a real job in about 6 months.
Oh, don't you love the skeptics? We've all got them.
Anyway, we ended up importing a company, some coffee machines from a company out of Switzerland called Solus. And that was our beginning. And this year will be our 20th year.
Wow. Kudos to you. I take my hat off to both of you. To have a company that lasts that long is such a huge feat. What does it feel like, Kyle, to have a company 20 years old?
Am I that old? This is my third company, and Accordo was my second. And Accordo didn't cease to be, but my time and Kyra's time there ceased to be. Accordo went on, continued on. But this has been a lot more fun. But part of it is because we came to this knowing a little bit more when I started my second company, Accordo, in my basement. I was young, full of piss and vinegar, and I just wanted to build something fast and furious and make it as big as possible, and ended up with a company that just, I wasn't having a lot of fun. 97 employees and managing rather than inventing, and so when we embarked on Baratza, it was like, let's be really clear about doing that kind of stuff that brings us life, and not doing that shit that drains you. And you can't start a company without doing some of that other stuff. But it's having a little bit more wisdom, not a lot, but a little bit. And so it's been fun because there's been a clarity around what we want this business to be, and what we don't want it to be. And Kyra's kind of my handler she helps keep me focused. I feel a little bit like a lightning rod at times. I get calls a few times a month from people saying, "Hey, I got this great idea. You should do this. You should Baratza out of this and Baratza out of that." And Kyra's always like, yanking my chain. No, you know, and anyway, we're this clarity that no, we just do coffee grinders, and doing coffee grinders and doing coffee grinders really well is enough.
Focus is such a hard thing, especially with, I'm an ideas person as well. You know, and I get contacted by people, oh, Elixir should do this and Map It Forward should do this, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, there are many things that I could do. There are many things that the business could do. But if I don't stay focused, I'm not going to get done the things that I actually want to get done with these businesses. Did you, excuse me, did you find that that was a learnt behavior, how to stay focused? Or have you just depended on Kyra to?
No. It's definitely a learned behavior, and you know, and it's a it's a practice to stay focused, and it's pretty easy now.
What's the line? Both of you might be able to kind of come together with an understanding about this. What's the line between staying focused and keeping away from the shiny, dangly, different ideas versus knowing what to tap into to drive growth and evolution in a business, do you think?
Well, for me, it's really staying within the universe of grinding coffee. Primarily, well, grinding coffee for the specialty coffee piece of the coffee industry, and primarily focused for high-end household, and also with the slow coffee movement for cafes. But a clarity that it doesn't include full-on professional machines like, you know, a Mazzer or a big, you know, Malkunig EK43. That's not our market. Not that we couldn't do that, but we're clear that's not where we want to be. We want to be in this little niche box, called really high-end consumer stuff that could produce a cup of coffee that's as good as what you get out of an EK43, but it's right-sized for the market that we're trying to serve. And so inside of that, it's real easy to dismiss these crazy ideas that come in out of left field that you know, hey, would you just develop me a grinder that does 60 pounds an hour? No, not our market. Could I do it? Yeah, we probably could. And we'd screw some shit up along the way, but I mean, it's not our market. And so it's pretty easy when you've got a defined market. And this is part of the wisdom that's come through the years is that we feel that market is enough. And I think younger folks, myself, when I was in my 30s, all kinds of other stuff. And we could do the market we're in within specialty coffee. We could do it better. And we're doing okay. But, you know, there's lots of room for improvement. And, you know, market share, pleasing people. There's any number of places that we could do what we're doing, where we're doing it, and do it better. So we don't need to go above it or beside it. We could just stay in it, and it's big enough for us.
I love that. I love the idea that you're actually, I think, Kyra, do you have headphones? I think is there some feedback, guys? Can you hear any feedback?
I'm not getting feedback.
Okay, great.
I get feedback from my kids all the time.
But lucky you. Kyra, it's fine. No problem.
Okay.
Do you find that when you look back at the journey for both of you, that having the journey was essential to learning how to have those skills, that you would never, life wouldn't have taught you these things outside of being an entrepreneur and being in an endeavor like this? And I mean, I spend a lot of my time thinking, why the fuck didn't I know how to do this stuff from the get-go? Why didn't, and it's like, chill out, Lee. The journey is what taught you how to have focus, how to have clarity. Did you find that that was a part of your learning as an entrepreneur?
Oh, definitely. Like Kyle said, I think the big learning for me looking back is what is enough. And always keeping in mind what we care about, who we care about, and having fun. And as I look back at the beginning, I was the one that was a little scared that the company wasn't going to grow enough, wasn't going to be successful. And I was the one that was out searching for new opportunities. And Kyle would say, no, stay focused. And I think what really made a difference for Baratza and for me was the beginning of the slow brew movement. Yes, because Baratza was beginning to grow its brand, had great grinders, but the slow brew movement and Baratza really came together. And we actually would love to say that we helped make it happen, that we knew it was happening, that we were right there. But that actually isn't what happened. We actually went to one of the SCA trade shows and walked in the door and went, wow, there's Baratzas all over the place, and they're being used for all these pour-overs.
Wow.
And in every booth, there was an Encore Virtuoso that was being used. And people would go, oh, you're from Baratza. We love your Baratzas. And we were kind of surprised. And by the end of the show, we realized that we were really in an incredible position to grow within the specialty market and be a product that really fit in with where the specialty coffee market was going. And I think that conference and ever since then, Kyle, do you remember what year that was?
2010, Anaheim. No, I don't remember.
And
like what? I didn't know that it went to Anaheim.
Anyway, it was an incredible show, and I would say ever since 2010, we have just been really having a lot of fun, learning a lot, growing with the market, and innovating with grind by weight and many other innovations that fit with this brewing, slow brew, and now into espresso. And it's just been an incredible journey.
I remember at that time, the 2009, 2010 kind of era is really when things really started to shift with regards to the way that I think we were doing coffee, for lack of a better phrase. You know, I had just moved over to the States for the first time and went to a coffee shop after being in specialty coffee for 10 years at the time or something. And no, not that long, maybe 8 years. And we were what we called intuitive baristas, where we didn't weigh anything. And, you know, we went by feel and the clicks on the grinders and all that kind of stuff. Never timed our shots, nothing like that. And then I came over here and started seeing different baristas that were weighing things. And we're like, what are these guys doing? Why do they need to weigh everything? And I remember my first visit back home, I'm like, American baristas are strange. Like these specialty coffee, third wave baristas, they're weighing everything. And it didn't take long. Oh.
Yeah, Google, it must have been something you said because they just shut me off.
Okay.
I'm back.
You're back. Because you've got two up now. Anyway, it's good. Yeah, it just became once it took off quickly, and everyone had Baratza grinders at home so that they could practice their craft at home away from the espresso machine. And I thought this was fantastic. I remember the first person that said to me, well, if you're going to be living here, we've got to set you up at home with a Baratza grinder. And I'm like, what's Baratza? We didn't know about them in Australia. And it just became this thing. If you're going to have a home setup, you've got to have a Baratza grinder.
Well, and the funny thing is, we were kind of oblivious to that. We didn't realize that.
How interesting.
And we really saw it with our own eyes in Anaheim that year. And it was kind of like, here's all these booths, and they're not selling Baratzas, but they're, you know, the SCA is full of roasters and little shops and things. And those people were all using our grinders there. And yeah, they weren't using them to promote Baratza. They were using them to promote their coffee or their, you know, their little beehive or their clever dripper or their V60. I mean, that's what they were doing. And they were all using our grinders. And then it was at that show that Jared from Noble Coffee comes up and he says, you know, I've been using this Virtuoso in my shop, you know, for brewing V60s. And he says, have you ever thought about integrating a scale in your grinder? I said, no. And so I flipped over, no shit, a napkin and drew a little sketch in the back of it. And I said, is this what you're thinking? He said, oh, that'd be perfect. So, you know, wow. We didn't think it up. It's just it's one of these people at that
listening,
show.
Isn't it? It's listening to what the customers need.
Yeah. And our best ideas have come from our customers. And, you know, I've long been a BMW nut, and I thought it was interesting that BMW in their cars, the customers wanted cup holders. I mean, Jesus, you could buy a Dodge minivan and it had 12 cup holders in it. But it wasn't until 1997 the BMW finally succumbed to what the customers asked for and put cup holders in a BMW from the factory. You know, so like, how freaking stupid, you know, just customers what they want, even if they shall not drink coffee in the cup. but, you know, we just listen to what they want. And then we came out with it the next year. People thought it was pretty cool.
Wow.
It was also very exciting to realize that baristas were using Baratzas at home. And everywhere I went, I would say, well, I'm from Baratza. I got one of those at home. Oh, I just love Baratza. And it just became this, wow, this is incredible. And from that knowledge, really, again, we changed our marketing, realizing that the baristas were the ones that were actually building our brand. So that when somebody went into a shop to get coffee, they would say, hey, I need a grinder at home. And what do you use? And they'd say a Baratza. And then when they were teaching classes or people were buying whole beans, and they'd say, hey, would you grind this for me? Why don't you buy a Baratza and take it? And then you'll be able to get better coffee at home. And we actually went to a class, and we were learning how to brew coffee. And the guy found out that we were from Baratza, and it was like, that Virtuoso up there, I'm saving my money for it. I just can hardly wait to get that and an AeroPress, and I'm going to start brewing coffee at home. And from that, we have really honed our marketing to how do we support the roasters and the baristas in the specialty coffee market? How do we get very involved in a lot of the latte art competitions where we'll give Baratzas as prizes. We try to make sure that pricing is fair for not only our large companies, which we're very careful of, but really for the cafes and roasters that are trying to sell our products so that they can make a profit and compete. So thanking the people who really helped build our brand is very important to us. And we see that the people who helped us build our brand were the owners, the baristas, the roasters, the people within the specialty coffee world. And so our commitment is to support specialty coffee.
That's so amazing. Tell me, why specialty coffee only? Why not everything?
Yeah, I think it comes back to focus and what is enough. And our belief is that if you support everything, you then are really supporting nothing.
I like that.
So by being able to focus on, I mean, if we want to say, oh, we're gonna sell to everybody. We'll sell to the big box guys. We'll make sure we have huge price structures that allow us to sell everywhere. What we're really saying is it's pretty hard to sell to the big box guys and sell to somebody who's going to buy 6 grinders a year to sell in their cafe, and make sure that it's kind of fair for everybody. So what we really have done is focus our attention on the specialty coffee market and stay away from places that aren't involved in high-end gourmet kitchen or coffee are the 2 places that we really have focused our attention. And I find that the more we focus on the things we care about, the people we care about, and what we're trying to accomplish, the more fun we have.
That's amazing.
It's not about making money and selling more and more and more grinders. It's actually about making high precision, reliable coffee grinders that help the consumer, baristas, people in the specialty coffee world make a great cup of coffee. And that really is what it's about. And if we can focus on that and do it really well, it's enough.
And the money will come.
The profit takes care of itself if you do this stuff right.
You know, there's a thing that we talk about in the Map of, well, I talk specifically about it when we run Map of Forward workshops, specifically to business owners. I talk about there's this element in business that no amount of money can buy. It's that feeling that you guys were talking about when you were noticing that everyone had a Baratza grinder and you walked into SCA and noticed that there was this movement, like this cult following that you guys were getting. There's no amount of money that could buy you the emotion that comes with that, right?
Right.
It's just something that you have to have invested yourself into your journey and stepped into all your vulnerability and discomfort and backed yourself. And this is one of the massive rewards that money can't buy that comes with that journey.
We've been talking a lot about the word mojo.
I like that.
And I saw some definition of it, of the magic within that creates the magic outside. And I think that mojo feeling is kind of what you're talking about, is how do you create that magic and that magic within the products you sell, within the support you offer, within the employees and how they feel about their jobs, and how do you create that magic within the company that then creates it outside. And like you said, it's going to work every day. It's doing your best. It's being empathetic. It's having fun. It's listening. It's taking care. It's a lot of things. And we're still talking about what it means to Baratza and what it means at Baratza. And like Kyle says, we have a long way to go. We can always improve and be better. But it's a very rich conversation we're having at our company about that magic, I think, that you're talking about. And it's not magic. It's a lot of hard work and a lot of thinking and a lot of designing, and it's focusing on on what you really care about and the values of your company, rather than focusing on some of the other things. Like, go ahead.
Like, go on. No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, like, profit, and I don't want anybody to think I don't like profit and I don't like some growth, but we really feel profit or increased revenues are more a metric of how we're doing in everything else. So if our products are great, our support is great, our brand is strong, and we're having fun, if all those are doing really well, then the revenues will show up also. And when we struggle with one of those four things, then we can begin to see, oh, that's affecting our growth and it's affecting our brand. So having great products and having great customer support are very important to us.
It sounds like what you're doing is governing your business based on what the life currencies of the business are, and using profit as a resource to measure that.
I wouldn't say it's a resource. I just say it's a scoreboard.
Yes. Well, the money is a resource to feed into the life currencies of the business, what I call life currencies anyway. It's a scoreboard. I guess that's a good way to put it. Do you think that's accurate?
Fast.
Yes.
I like to drive really fast, and on a racetrack, you know, your goal might be to have a shorter lap time, but you can't actually go out and just do a shorter lap time. What you can do is be really smooth, enter a corner properly, exit it properly, be gentle with the equipment. And if you do all that stuff really right, and you practice, your lap times will start to come down. And that's like your profit. But you can't really go after profit. You can go after doing all this other shit really right and doing it really well. And that is practice. And if you do all that stuff really well, then chances are your lap times will come down. And the lap time is just the result, and profit is just the result. But that's not, if you focus on the profit, you'll probably screw up, you know, along the way. But if you focus on doing these things right, the profit just kind of comes.
And it's the long game, isn't it, when you take that approach?
Yeah.
Where does competition come into it? This has been a philosophical tug of war I've been having within myself all of this year, because I'm naturally not a competitive person, or I think I've trained myself out of that. And being a business owner, I'm really pondering many hours a day at the moment about, will I benefit from the idea of competition, or am I better off just running my own race as a business owner and not having competition? Because at the moment, you know, we've set the goals and the ideas and the values and the concepts for both of the businesses. And that's what we're fulfilling. You know, we're going out there working with the team to, like, this is the race that we're running. We've set this and this is what we're doing. But I often wonder, like, should we be in competition? Will that drive things? And I've always kind of shied away from that because I'm not a fan of that behavior. But where does it fall for you guys?
We have a story.
Oh, I love sentences that start like that.
We call it the elephant seat. And if you think of small home appliances, you can think of the big companies that own the small appliances in the world, in the United States. And you can go to Macy's and Bed Bath & Beyond and Target and many places and see those big companies. And when we started, probably before the slow movement, and we were kind of wondering where Baratza was going to end up, we realized that we didn't want to actually be right under those elephant feet because they have the resources to squash us. So really what we wanted to figure out was, where do we belong? And if we don't want to be a $500 million company or a $1 billion company, and we don't necessarily want to have products that are from brewers, espresso machines, blenders, waffle makers, whatever else that most of these companies are making, and we just want to own a little tiny piece. And we had started in the specialty coffee world. Partly when we started this company, we wanted to stay in coffee. And the reason we wanted to stay in coffee is we had noticed that the people in coffee are really cool. And the people in specialty coffee are really fun.
Yeah, nice.
And that they care about things that we really care about. They care about community. They care about the environment. They care about people in the producing nations. They care about fairness and sustainability. And both of us feel pretty strongly that the world is small and we need to take care of it. And and the industry, the specialty coffee industry, seemed to care about more and many of the things that we cared about. And I lost my train of thought, but anyway.
Well, let me offer my view of the. I mean, the
competition.
Kyra and I always talk about our dancing elephants, and you don't want to go.
I really love that analogy, by the way. It's fantastic. Yeah. I'm going to keep that in mind.
Well, and the thing to keep in mind is that if you go on a dance floor and you're a mouse and there are elephants out there, the elephant isn't out to kill you. All they're doing is a dance step and they move and
they're just doing their thing, right?
So it's not like they're mean or vicious or they even notice you.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous place to be if you're little. And so as we looked at the industry to get really specific, a little bit granular, no pun intended, you've got the 1995 whirlybird, that just beats the shit out of a bean and people call it a grinder. And they sell 800,000 to 1 million pieces in the US a year. It's probably more than that now. So there's that as a coffee grinder. And it was like, the people who were making those $20 whirlybirds at retail, $20 whirlybirds, they kind of got the market and they're serving the market. And then there's the Malkunigs and the Mazers of the world. And you take a look at them and they're doing a pretty good job. They're servicing that end of the market. So those are elephants for us. And it was like, not doing the $20 ones. And then we looked up at the, $2,000, $3,000 commercial machines going, not going to play that game. And so it's like, where is the market not really being served?
Yeah.
And so we began to kind of narrow down our focus. And you dismiss the elephants and then you start looking here and it wasn't a blank slate. I mean, you had Bodum and Compresso messing around in there a little bit, and Gages had a grinder. I mean, there was a smattering of stuff in there, but it was almost, a prime example is the Rancilio Rocky. It's a great grinder, but it's a grinder I think Rancilio wishes they'd probably never built. They really are focused on the professional side of things.
Yeah,
it's a great grinder. And they it's like an ugly stepsister. They won't stop making it, but they've not gone into redesign or anything else. And Toyota years ago, I'm bouncing around. Toyota years ago, back in the early '60s, they had a motto was beat Benz, and Toyota set out to beat Mercedes-Benz, and it was a lofty goal.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about, though. Like that idea that if your focus as a company, and I'm sorry to cut you off there, but when your focus as a company becomes somebody else's race, I don't know that you're necessarily focused anymore on the long game for what you're trying to achieve as a company. Do you agree?
Well, that's where I'm going, is that this competition thing, I kind of waffle back and forth. We want to play our own game. We want to play it well. And I think it's naive to say there are no competitors. I mean, we've been guilty of saying that about ourselves for some time, because we defined, the game, this way. It's it's below $1,000, it's above 100. That's kind of that's our wheelhouse. But inside that wheelhouse, there are Bodems and Compressos and Rockies. There are. And case in point, when we developed the Vario, our goal was to beat the Rocky, to be better than the Rocky, because we'd have been naive to say there isn't a grinder at a $400 price point in the market that's good. There is one.
How did you define better, though?
What's that?
Units. How did you define better? You said that your goal was to be better.
Well,
was better unit sales? Was it better quality machine?
No. Purely talking about quality in the cup and the experience for the user. All right. Okay. That's how we defined it. Sales, as I say, if you did it right, those will come along. And I don't know how we're doing compared to Rocky, sales wise. I just know that our customers like what we've done. And, and when we introduced the Vario, we weren't compared to the Rocky. We were compared to Mazzer Minis. And then Home Barista got involved doing a thing with the Battle of the Titans, and we were now compared with $1,000 grinders. I was kind of like, well, that's kind of flattering. They would frequently beat us, but every now and then there was a tie, and people would say, well, wait a minute. So here's a $380 grinder against a $1,000 grinder, and it's a tie. It sounds like a win for Baratza.
Oh yeah, and the consumer.
So I'm saying is that there's a little tension around no competition, play your own game, and the game that we're playing inside that space, there already was other players. We didn't consider them like elephants because they just weren't. They didn't seem to have much energy, much passion about playing in that space, and it is the space that we defined as where we were going to play, and so we do notice, what the quality of what a Rocky could do and the reputation that it had, and it's well earned. It's a good tank. It's great. So largely we've defined the game that we want Baratza to play. In defining it, it's who is our customer, what is our market, and inside of that market, how do we do the best we can to really listen to our customers and give them what they want, give them what they need and we typically define that as easy to use, reliable, but most importantly, what ends up in the cup. And if we do that and we do it really well, we end up gaining and gathering and owning some market share.
Go ahead, Kyra.
It's pretty exciting that once you start saying what we care about is the taste of coffee in the cup and the specialty market, it really helped us understand how to design our products and where to put our money. And Kyle left, and this was really his strength, not mine, but one of the things people say is, wow, we really love grinders that are gorgeous, that have metal on the outside of the grinder. And when you look at them on your countertop, everybody goes, wow, that's gorgeous. And we happen to have one of those or two of those, and that's our Forte, which we designed as a light commercial grinder. And it's all metal on the outside. Partly, it's all metal on the inside too, because we were trying to make something that was beautiful, but also could be used commercially.
Robust, yeah.
But as we were looking at how do you build a grinder that you're going to sell for under $150 and have the parts, have precision burrs and a great motor and all the gears and things that are going to make great grind profile that will give you a great cup of coffee, there's not a lot of room for a lot of metal on the outside.
No. Yeah.
And so we have a lot of plastic. And some people would say, wow, why don't you put a gorgeous metal wrapping on that? And then you would have an even better grinder. And the problem is we really want to have a grinder that normal folk might be able to afford to put in their kitchen. And people think $150 for a coffee grinder is a lot of money. And it is a lot of money. And yet we have determined that it's impossible for us to make a grinder that would give you a precision grind profile needed to make a great cup of coffee for under $100.
What I'm hearing a lot of from both of you is intention. There's a lot of thought and intention that's gone into everything that you've been setting up over the last almost 20 years. And it's very considered and very thoughtful in how you go about that. Something that we haven't talked about is culture. And I'm fascinated at the moment in how do you start a culture and how do you define it? And then how do you execute it within a company?
That's Kyra's favorite topic.
Bring it on, Kyra.
Well, I really think that Kyle and I started from the very beginning that we really wanted to have a company that both of us loved working for and with and in. And I think it really started with an incredible respect for each other. So Kyle and I went to college together. So we've known each other a long time. And now we've worked together for 21 years.
Where did you go to college?
We went to Washington State.
Nice.
What
did you both study?
What
did you both study, by the way?
I have a degree in environmental science and a minor in chemistry.
Kyle?
I studied, I was a biochem, and I was going to veterinary school.
Wow.
And then I changed majors and I got a degree in engineering.
Yeah, wow. I studied genetics. It seems like a lot of people in the coffee industry did these really great degrees that they no longer use.
Well, I'm using mine.
You're using yours, yes. The biochem maybe not. But and I guess I think that the thing that university teaches you is things like discipline and how to investigate and how to research and how to get interested in a topic and what you're not interested in. These are life skills, I think, as well as the things that you're learning. But anyway, Kyra, I derailed your whole thought there. I'm sorry about that.
No, that's okay. But anyway, so I think that the beginning, we started the company that way. In the last 5 years, we have grown a lot. And one of the things that's kind of amazing when you grow, it is that all of a sudden you have to have a culture. The culture isn't just the two entrepreneurs and owners that touch everything and have kind of, that culture is just passed on because there's only 6 of you and everybody knows what's going on. Now we have 19 people, which I know a lot of people would say is still pretty small, but all of a sudden we have people who have only worked for a lot of people that have only worked for the company for a couple of years. And so the culture of the company and what's important to us, really they don't know. And so it's been really interesting to talk about culture with intention, which is how you began this, is how do we now hold on to a culture of care? And I think it really, the place where I see it the most is in our customer support. And one of the things we really work on in our customer support is to be human, and that we are working with humans. We're working with people who are frustrated because they got a grinder that isn't working and they would like to have a great cup of coffee. and to understand and sympathize with the fact that this person got up this morning and really just wanted a cup of coffee before they got to work, and we are the problem they're having. And how do we get their grinder working as fast as we possibly can so that they can have a great cup of coffee? Because nobody really buys a grinder to have a coffee grinder. They buy a coffee grinder because they want a really great cup of coffee. And so being able to really spend our time talking about how do we design a culture and a system and processes that help people get their coffee grinders working again quickly. Number one is you build coffee grinders that don't break. Number two is if
Still
they
working on that.
I had to bring that up first, Kyle. Then we have to have people available to help support people when they do have one break. We want people to continue to use their coffee grinders for a long time, and we really don't want to see them in the landfill. So we have designed a way for people to buy very inexpensive parts so they can fix their own grinders. We have videos and written instructions of how to fix your grinders. We ship those parts out the next day. We have a repair service that's designed so you send us the grinder, and as inexpensively as we can, we will fix your grinder and get it back to you within a week.
Wow.
We have a support system where we work hard to have you talk to or email directly with a human being so that you don't have to go through a lot of button pushing to find a human being that is going to figure out how to not only fix your grinder, but how to make you feel that you've been taken care of by Baratza. So that's what we aspire to be. And with that, the culture then has to be one where we recognize that we're working with human beings that are frustrated, and that what we're trying to do is take care of their problem, which they can't have a great cup of coffee.
So that's the goal, right? Like at the end of the day, everything shifts towards how do we fix this one problem that our customers are experiencing, and therefore the culture within the company is built towards fixing that pain point on a daily basis. Is that correct?
That really is. And within that, then you have to have employees that feel taken care of too. So we believe that the happier your employees are, then the happier they are going to be able to make the consumers, the resellers, the partners. So it all works together in taking care of our employees, our resellers, our importers, our manufacturer, and all of that then leads to taking care of the consumer who's actually using the coffee grinder.
How do you communicate that intention to the supply chain? Has that been an interesting or difficult one to get your head around?
I'm going to say that's a really great question. And I would say persistence. It's interesting to me to talk to our resellers or to see what our resellers say on social media about us. And I would say that our resellers feel taken care of because we work to make sure that they can make a fair margin and a fair profit. We make a reliable product so that when they sell it to their customers, they can feel good about what they're selling to their customers. If there's a problem with it, we try to get them out of the loop, and we take care of it ourselves because we know that most of our customers are interested in making coffee. They're not really interested in fixing coffee grinders. And so what we've done is try to say, if you sell the product and it has a problem, we would really love you to contact us, and we will take care of your customer so that your customer is happy with Baratza, but it's also happy with you as the person who sold the product to them. So I think we've done a pretty good job of sending that message. And that's what I hear from our resellers is, I can trust you to take care of my customer. And I think that's a huge compliment.
And
that's another one of those feelings, right? That you can't pay for.
No, you can't pay for it. And when I read what our resellers say about us, I mean, it's not always good, and not hearing good things is good because you get to learn from them. But I would say 80 to 90% of the things that I see our resellers say about us is very touching.
Kyle, what were you going to say?
Well, that there's two pieces of this. There's Baratza, there's our intention of care, and Kyra just spoke to what I'll call the downstream side of it. That's the resellers, and we have a very critical and very important and very deep relationship on the upstream, on the supply side, and we have the same sort of ethic and place the value on those relationships with our factory in Taiwan, with our supplier in particular in Liechtenstein. Relationship with the factory is just extremely close. I'm typically there about once a month. We've been doing business together since 2001.
Wow.
And the trust is so deep. It's better than most family relationships. And
yeah, that's great.
We've oftentimes gone back to them and said, look, we want to make sure that you're making enough money on this product. And we've evaluated and we've offered to increase what we're going to pay them. And similarly, we have the same sort of relationship with our burr supplier in Liechtenstein. It's been about 10 years now. And it's a different way of doing business because our suppliers need the business with us to be good. It needs to be good for them. And I think the typical way of doing business is to go beat the shit out of your supplier, so you're paying the absolute bare minimum, not a penny more, or else you've left a penny on the table. And we don't feel that way. It's important that they have a healthy business, that our business is good business for them. And the great news is that they also take great care of the employees. Kyra and I are over for Chinese New Year each year, and the workers are there, but so is their spouse, significant other, and their kids, all at dinner.
Wow. So
there's 150, 170 of us in this take over the whole restaurant, and it's just fun to see the lives that have all been touched, because we are their only customer, and and they're all there for Baratza. And similarly, when we're in Europe, we're together with our burr supplier, and it's dinner, and it's a friendship. It's a deep relationship. And so that the caring goes way beyond the transactional piece of the money. There's business underlying all that, but there's a richness to those relationships that way transcends the dollars that are being, traded back and forth. So, and
it's again another feeling or experience in your business that you can't pay for. There's just.
But it's, as you say, it's something bigger than just profit.
Exactly.
I mean, you have to be mindful of that, but that's not our focus.
Yeah, and very few businesses are run like that. It's right now, I'm about to start on another project within Map It Forward about the coffee supply chain and really unearthing, because what I'm hearing you talk about with regards to your supply chain is something that we're trying to start a movement around with regards to the coffee supply chain. We want roasters and cafes to start building a relationship with the farms that they're choosing to represent at the front of the supply chain. And, the sea market crashed earlier this year. people are pulling up their coffee trees and planting macadamia trees and things like that. So we're at a real impasse in the potential future history of our industry with regards to this question: are we going to run out of coffee? And if we don't look after the supply chain, I don't know that we'll run out of coffee, but it will become a very expensive luxury if it becomes something that no longer becomes affordable for people to do.
Yeah.
Farmers are going to ask themselves rightfully, what the fuck's the point? And getting paid.
You're going to squeeze every last penny out of each kilo they produce, and you've just starved the goose.
Exactly.
No more eggs coming out. Yeah.
And so we're about to embark on a project that we're still in planning with the partners that are going to come together for this. And we're going to put together a project that starts helping cafes and roasters, but more importantly, consumers of these coffee products have a vested interest in this supply chain, so that people are choosing to support businesses who are focusing on a relationship buying and a sustainable supply chain, that are not out to milk the farmers for every last penny that they can. For God's sake, these people are poor as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can we stop this behavior, please?
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me a lot of what Baratza's whole philosophy is. It's so impressive and inspiring. Thank you so much for unpacking all of that and inspiring the hell out of me.
Well, it's kind of a fun way to be in business.
It is, isn't it?
A trail of dead bodies behind you.
Yeah, my number one currency for my businesses and my life is peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And every decision that we make in Elixir and Map It Forward is based on, is this going to add or take away from our company's peace of mind? And when we do that and we operate on that currency, that is the driving force with everything that we do, you notice that you very naturally have to take care of the supply chain.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a really lovely way to do business, because no one hates you and you don't hate doing business with anyone. And you know that the only people that you're going to be doing business with are the people who are like you, who are going for win-win situations. They take care of their people, they take care of their supply chain, and they just want to do great business. It just makes it more fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I guess we've only got a couple minutes left, because I really want to be respectful of your time.
Thank you. I've got a plane to catch, so.
I do want to ask you both, what's the end game? If you were to say it in a sentence, what would be the end goal for Baratza?
Well, I'll just say it's difficult to talk about the end goal, because we have and we continue. You talked about this journey we've done. We haven't done a journey. We are doing a journey.
The journey.
And
I love that.
And we've really focused largely on that.
Yeah.
And continue to focus on that. And and we're not naive. We know we won't live forever. But we do love what we're doing. And as long as we love what you're doing, you don't work a day in your life, right?
I absolutely agree with that.
So, we have to be smart and think about, the future and call it succession planning, if you will.
Yeah.
But the end game for Baratza is really more of the same goodness. It really is. And a thriving business that takes great care of customers and hopefully has a unique niche in the marketplace.
Wow. Guys, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you. It's 11 o'clock in the morning and I'm going to take this energy right into the rest of my day. It's just been so inspiring. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lee. It's been a joy chatting with you.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Have a safe flight, Kyle and Kyra. Thank you again for going to all this trouble to make sure that this was set up. It's wonderful.
This has been a lot of fun.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, and I did too. Have a wonderful day, guys. Thank you.
Take care, Lee. All right.
You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye.
Bye.